Assalamu alaikum, Watasi no Yujin. It's time to cover the novel tie-ins for this Welcome to the Night City with Walter John Williams' Hardwired and George Alec Effinger's When Gravity Fails. If you don't want to play in the bleak 2020 universe, why not try the even bleaker world of Williams and Effinger's? Both books diverge from the normal Cyberpunk rules and twist how the game is played. If you want a diversion from Night City, maybe a shift in tone can inspire your players. I'm Mr. Welch, and we are jumping into the alternate setting books. Hardwired was the first of the two books and was published with the 2013 rules. Williams himself converted his novel over to Cyberpunk rules. He had been friends with Mike Pondsmith before the start of Cyberpunk 2013. The book was written just 3 years prior to the game version, but Cyberpunk as we know it was largely a product of the mid-80s. William Gibson's most iconic works of Neuromancer and Mona Lisa Overdrive came out in 84 and 86. It's unusual for a game conversion to come straight from the source, but that's exactly what happened here. The cover art was done by Royo, and there was various interior artists. The plot of Hardwired is that the Earth has depleted its resources, and the rich and elite have moved to the orbital habitats where they can create all the resources they need, but they don't share them with the poor and downtrodden back on Earth. Wait a minute, that's the plot to Elysium, and Hardwired came out 27 years before Elysium was made. That's some serious shades of Parks the Clonus horror in the island there. I'm not saying Elysium stole its plot from Hardwire, I'm just saying there's a lot of serial numbers being filed off here. The setting has a focus on smugglers and people on the run. The orbitals control all aspects of supply to the Earth. The planet can't grow enough food to feed the people, while the orbitals have gigantic hydroponic farms that can easily provide enough food for everybody, for a price. Because of the high prices for even the most basic commodities, the black market thrives like nowhere else. This is the setting that gave Cyberpunk the Panzers, armored hover tanks that transport cargo through the Badlands. Unfortunately for the Panzers, 2013 didn't have the best rules for armored combat. So while the cool hover tanks are in Hardwired, the rules for the cool hover tanks weren't quite ready for them. Most of the rules in Cyberpunk are easily converted to Hardwired without any changes. The lone exception is the Netrunner, since Hardwired doesn't have the net as we know it. Hardwired computers aren't fully immersive, instead it's more like the movie War Games, where you have to guess passwords, sneak into buildings to bypass security, or bribe people for backdoor access. You don't jack into the net, you still use keyboards. The Netrunners in Hardwired are called Crystal Jocks, and they actually have to go in with the Edge Runners when they break into a building, because remote access in Hardwired usually isn't possible. The people running the orbitals are pretty smart. They don't leave vital systems linked up that can be accessed from a guy sitting on his couch a continent away. Most of the tech, cyber, and gear introduced in Hardwired was later included in future products and converted into 2020 rules. The main exception being the Panzers, of course, though those were given a partial conversion in Solo of Fortune too. Almost all the weapons are generic. There's no Armalite 2000 heavy pistol, it's just a heavy pistol or a rifle. The setting restricts ranged combat by simply making the cost of the ammunition prohibitive. You're going to think twice about having a shootout when a 9mm round is $5. Remember, scarcity is a major theme in Hardwired. This is one of the few books not available in print, though you can get the PDF from the usual places. Used copies go for about $50 on the secondhand market, or you can wait for R Tal to release the book on their website like they've done with all the rest. You're getting the book for the background and the adventures, because this is from the 2013 edition, and the rules will need to be converted. Next, we're heading to the Middle East for the source book When Gravity Fails. It's set over 100 years after 2020, with the Middle East being one of the few somewhat stable regions left on the globe after the US, Russia, and Asia have fought countless wars over limited resources. The United States fractured in 2134 due to the government taking more resources from the poorer states and relocating them to the more politically powerful states. The Soviet Union splinters for similar reasons, as well as the brutal tactics it used against the Ukraine to prevent the nation from leaving the USSR. China lasts another 20 years before the massive overpopulation becomes unsustainable and the nation splinters into 100 different war zones. The Middle East, on the other hand, has kept its neutrality, and as such it wasn't devastated by the countless wars, though it was greatly weakened by the economic and environmental disasters that plagued the Earth. In the year 2299, everything is rare. Food is difficult to come by. Cybernetics are available, but the cost keeps them in the hands of the wealthy. Medical technology has improved in quality that for the very few that can afford it, things like aging and disease are unheard of. The problem is everything but weapons are rare in this setting. The world economy is shattered. Unlike other cyberpunk settings, the megacorps are few in numbers with their power limited. The book When Gravity Fails was written in 1987 by Effinger as part of his Buyadin cycle. The book was followed up by A Fire in the Sun and Exile Kissed, but was left unfinished due to Effinger's early disease caused by lingering health issues. A fourth book was released after his death, which included the first two chapters of the next book he was working on, but unfortunately this series would end there. Effinger did provide the foreword for this book when it came out in 1992, and Doug Anderson, as usual, provided the cover art. The Buyadine setting has numerous differences from the 2020 universe, as you can expect, specifically with the use of modifiers as a major focus on the setting. Modifiers are effectively artificial personalities that people can use to live out their fantasies as someone else. They are very popular in the Buyadine world. People can just escape from their lives by becoming someone else. They remove personality flaws by adopting someone who is more confident, funny, or sensual, just by inserting a chip into the back of their neck. The problem with modifiers is they're highly addictive. People will get lost in the assumed personalities and forget who they actually are. Technology in the Buyadine setting is much higher than it is in the 2020 setting, which makes sense. It's almost 200 years in the future. But while Gravity's technology is better, it's also rarer because of the economic collapse. The weapons include advanced laser weapons and crystalline needle guns or Gauss assault rifles. Armor has also been upgraded with a variety of defensive wear designed to thwart the various types of new weapons. Netrunning technology has taken a step backwards. With the collapse of all the superpowers, the internet is limited to just the surrounding areas when you log in. If you want to log into a company in North America, you have to be in North America. Considering the Buyadine setting is focused around the Middle East, this does tend to have minimal impact. When Gravity Fails is available at the R Tal site for $12. If you want the rules for modifiers or the more advanced weapons, or if you're just a completionist, there's no reason not to get this book. If you want to try a new setting with an Islamic feel, this is the book you want. It does talk about Islam in the dark future, but from the point of view from the first book in the setting, as the later books in the Buyadine setting cast a darker cloud over the Islamic world, with the ruling powers proving to be no better than the rest of the world. And that wraps up the setting conversion books. So that means there's only 2 books left in all of Cyberpunk 2020 that I haven't covered. And those are the books that signaled the death of 2020, when R Talsorian literally nuked the setting. It's not going to be the last video on this channel. I still have Chrome Berets and Night City Stories left of the books that I wanted to cover. Plus, when I get my hands on Cyberpunk Red, I will be adding those to this channel. But come back next time for Stormwave and Stormfront, the final books of Cyberpunk 2020, sadly.